Hey, if you love stories of corporate intrigue and triumph, hit that subscribe button for more. I walked into the office that Monday, my heart racing with anticipation for the big pitch. The deal with Apex Corp was the kind we dreamed about, life-changing, career-defining. My secretary, Claire, greeted me with her usual smile, but something felt off. Her eyes darted away too quickly, her voice a touch too sweet. I brushed it aside, focusing on the presentation slides I'd spent weeks perfecting. This was my moment to shine, to prove I belonged at the top. Rumors had been swirling about my readiness, whispers I couldn't quite pin down. I chalked it up to office politics, the kind that thrives in high-stakes environments. Claire handed me my coffee, her fingers lingering on the cup. "Big day, huh?" she said, her tone almost mocking. I nodded, distracted, unaware of the storm brewing. By noon, I'd hear the words that would change everything. My own team doubted me, and Claire was at the center of it all. The betrayal was just beginning to unfold, and I was clueless. The boardroom was a pressure cooker, executives in sharp suits eyeing me like vultures. I stood at the head, projector humming, ready to sell Apex on our vision. My slides were flawless, my numbers airtight, but the room felt cold. Claire sat in the corner, taking notes, her pen moving furiously. I caught her glancing at my rival, Tom, a senior VP with a shark's grin. Halfway through, I stumbled on a question about scalability. Nothing major, but it stung. Tom jumped in, smooth as silk, answering for me. The execs nodded, and I felt the ground shift. Claire's voice echoed in my head. "He's not ready." I'd overheard her in the break room, whispering to Tom. It hit like a gut punch. She was undermining me. I pushed through, finished strong, but doubt crept in. Was she right? Was I out of my depth? The meeting ended with polite claps, no commitments. Back at my desk, I replayed the meeting, dissecting every moment, every glance. Claire popped in, all smiles, asking how it went. Her cheerfulness felt like a mask, and I wasn't buying it. I started noticing things, her late nights organizing my files, her cozy chats with Tom. She'd been my right hand for 2 years, privy to every strategy, every weakness. I pulled up the Apex proposal on my laptop, checking for errors. Everything was intact, but something nagged at me. I called a junior analyst, Sarah, for a second pair of eyes. She hesitated, then admitted she'd heard Claire talking me down to the team. "Not ready," she'd said, planting seeds of doubt. Sarah looked nervous, like she'd betrayed a secret. I thanked her, my mind racing. Claire wasn't just disloyal, she was playing a bigger game. I needed proof, and I needed it fast. That night, I stayed late, the office dark except for my desk lamp's glow. I dug into Claire's emails, feeling like a spy in my own company. Her inbox was clean, too clean, like she'd scrubbed it. But I found a deleted draft, buried in the server's temp files. It was a pitch to Apex, mirroring my own, but with Tom's name on it. My blood boiled. She'd been feeding him my work, positioning him to swoop in. The draft had notes, her handwriting in the margins, emphasize cost savings, he missed that. She was coaching him to outshine me. I printed it, my hands shaking with rage. This wasn't just gossip. It was sabotage. I thought back to her helpful suggestions, how she'd pushed me to soften my approach. It all made sense now. She wanted me to fail. I locked the evidence in my drawer, planning my next move. The next morning, I confronted Claire, keeping my tone calm to avoid tipping her off. "Busy night?" I asked, watching her flinch. She mumbled about spreadsheets, her eyes avoiding mine. I didn't push, yet. I needed to rebuild my case for Apex without her knowing. I spent hours refining the pitch, adding the cost-saving angle she'd leaked to Tom. Sarah became my ally, quietly feeding me intel on Claire's moves. By lunch, I heard Tom was scheduling a follow-up with Apex, claiming he had new insights. My stomach churned, but I stayed focused. I called Apex's lead negotiator, offering a casual check-in. He sounded intrigued, unaware of Tom's play. I set a meeting for Friday, my last shot to seal this. Claire hovered nearby, pretending to organize files. I smiled at her, hiding my fury. She had no idea I was onto her. Wednesday brought a curveball, an email from Apex requesting a revised proposal by Thursday. The timing was brutal, but I saw my chance to outmaneuver Tom. I worked through the night, Sarah by my side, crunching numbers and polishing slides. Claire offered to help, but I waved her off, citing confidentiality. Her face tightened, and I knew she was rattled. I cross-checked every detail, ensuring no trace of her sabotage remained. By dawn, the proposal was a masterpiece, tailored to Apex's needs. I sent it to my boss, bypassing Claire entirely. He called me, impressed, and promised to back me at the meeting. I felt a surge of hope, but Claire's words still haunted me. Not ready. I'd prove her wrong, not just to her, but to everyone. The clock was ticking, and I was all in. Thursday, I caught Claire slipping a USB drive into Tom's hand during a coffee break. My gut told me it was my revised proposal. I didn't confront her. I needed her to think she was winning. Instead, I asked IT to monitor her account for unusual activity. By evening, they flagged a file transfer to Tom's laptop, time-stamped just after I'd sent my draft to the boss. It was my proposal, word for word. I had her. I saved the IT report, adding it to my evidence pile. Meanwhile, Apex confirmed our Friday meeting, and I prepped like a general before battle. I rehearsed every slide, every answer, anticipating Tom's countermoves. Claire's betrayal had lit a fire in me. I wasn't just fighting for the deal now, I was fighting for my reputation. She'd underestimated me, and that was her mistake. Friday morning, the boardroom was packed. Apex execs, my boss, Tom, and Claire in the wings. I started strong, my voice steady, slides crisp. Tom sat smugly, waiting for his turn. Halfway through, he interrupted, claiming he had a better proposal. My boss raised an eyebrow but let him speak. Tom's pitch was eerily familiar. My words, my data, my strategy. The room shifted, impressed. I could have crumbled, but I didn't. I stood, smiling, and asked Apex to compare our proposals side by side. I handed out hard copies of mine, time-stamped before Tom's work was logged. The room went quiet. Claire's face paled as I explained the mix-up. I didn't name her, not yet, but the implication was clear. Apex's lead nodded, impressed by my transparency. Tom fumbled, exposed. The meeting turned in my favor. Apex's questions focused on my proposal, ignoring Tom's recycled pitch. I answered with confidence, weaving in the cost-saving angle Claire had tried to gift him. My boss shot me an approving look, and I felt the tide turn. Claire scribbled furiously, avoiding my gaze. I knew she was panicking, her plan unraveling. After the presentation, Apex's lead pulled me aside, praising my thoroughness. "We'll be in touch," he said, a glint of respect in his eyes. Tom slunk out, his shark grin gone. I didn't celebrate yet. There was one more move to make. Back at my desk, I compiled my evidence, the deleted draft, the IT report, Claire's notes. I scheduled a meeting with HR for Monday. Claire's days were numbered, but I kept my cool, letting her sweat. That night, I got the call. Apex wanted to move forward with me. I'd done it. The deal was mine, despite Claire's schemes and Tom's theft. I sat in my apartment, a glass of whiskey in hand, replaying the week. Claire's words, "He's not ready," had almost broken me, but they'd also fueled me. I'd turned her betrayal into my victory. Monday, I'd walk into HR with my evidence, ensuring she faced the consequences. For now, I savored the win, knowing I'd proven myself. The office would talk, but not about my failure, about my triumph. I'd closed the deal, and Claire's game was over. She'd underestimated me, and I'd made her pay. The corporate world was brutal, but I was ready for it. Always had been. Monday morning, I walked into the office with a calm I hadn't felt in weeks. The Apex deal was signed, sealed, and delivered, a feather in my cap. Claire was at her desk, typing furiously, unaware of the storm coming her way. I nodded politely, keeping up the facade as I headed to HR. The evidence I'd gathered was ironclad: emails, file transfers, and Sarah's testimony. I laid it all out for the HR director, who listened with a grim expression. She promised a full investigation, but I could see the outcome in her eyes. Claire's actions were a clear violation of company policy. I left the meeting feeling lighter, like I'd shed a weight I'd carried too long. Back at my desk, I focused on the next project, determined to keep my momentum. Claire's betrayal had taught me to trust my instincts. I'd never let my guard down again. By midday, whispers were spreading. HR had called Claire in for a chat. She walked past my office, her face pale, avoiding eye contact. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The truth was doing the work for me. Sarah stopped by, her eyes wide with excitement. "It's happening," she whispered, confirming Claire was on thin ice. I thanked her for her loyalty, promising to return the favor. Meanwhile, Tom was keeping a low profile, his reputation bruised after the Apex debacle. My boss called me in, congratulating me on the deal and hinting at a promotion. I smiled, grateful but cautious. The corporate ladder was slippery, and I'd learned to watch my back. Claire's desk was empty by lunch, her personal items gone. Word was she'd been escorted out. Justice felt good, but I stayed focused. There were more deals to close. The office dynamic shifted after Claire's exit. People treated me differently. More respect, less doubt. I'd proven I could handle the pressure, not just with Apex but with the fallout. My boss tasked me with leading a new project, a high-profile client with even bigger stakes. I dove in, energized by the challenge. Sarah stepped up as my new assistant, eager and trustworthy. I made a mental note to mentor her, repay her loyalty. The whispers about my readiness were gone, replaced by talk of my killer instinct. I didn't love the nickname, but it fit. Claire's betrayal had hardened me, made me sharper. I reviewed my new pitch, double-checking every detail. No one would catch me off guard again. The Apex win was just the beginning. I was building a legacy now. That evening, I reflected on the week's chaos over a quiet dinner. Claire's words, "He's not ready," still echoed, but they'd lost their sting. I'd turned her sabotage into my stepping stone. The corporate world was a battlefield, and I'd come out stronger. I thought about Tom, still licking his wounds, and wondered if he'd learned his lesson. Probably not. He'd always been too arrogant. I made a note to keep an eye on him, just in case. My phone buzzed with an email from Apex, confirming the contract's final details. I smiled, savoring the victory. It wasn't just about the money, it was about proving I belonged. Claire had tried to steal my moment, but I'd taken it back. And I'd do it again, as many times as it took. The next day, I walked into a team meeting with newfound confidence. My colleagues looked at me differently, their nods carrying weight. I presented our next strategy, fielding questions with ease. Sarah sat nearby, taking notes, her loyalty a quiet reassurance. After the meeting, my boss pulled me aside, hinting at a corner office if I kept delivering. I thanked him, keeping my ambitions close to my chest. The office was buzzing with talk of Claire's exit. Some called it harsh, others inevitable. I stayed out of it, letting the truth speak for itself. My focus was on the future, on bigger deals and tougher challenges. Claire's betrayal had been a wake-up call, a reminder of the stakes. I was ready for whatever came next, and I'd make sure everyone knew it. By week's end, the Apex deal was the talk of the industry. Trade blogs mentioned my name, calling me a rising star. I laughed it off, but it felt good. Sarah forwarded me a competitor's email, fishing for details on my strategy. I deleted it, uninterested in their games. My focus was on our next client, a tech giant with deep pockets. I spent hours researching their needs, tailoring a pitch to blow them away. Sarah proved invaluable, digging up data I'd missed. I realized she was more than an assistant. She was a partner. I started delegating more, trusting her instincts. The office felt different now, cleaner without Claire's shadow. I'd rebuilt my team, my reputation, my confidence. The deal was mine, and so was the future. Monday brought a surprise, an email from Claire, of all people. It was short, an apology laced with excuses. She claimed stress, ambition, a moment of weakness. I didn't buy it. I archived the email, uninterested in her redemption arc. My focus was on the tech giant's pitch, now just days away. I worked late, refining every slide, every word. Sarah stayed with me, her energy matching mine. We laughed about the office gossip, how Tom was still dodging questions about Apex. The betrayal felt distant now, a lesson learned. I'd turned Claire's words into fuel, her sabotage into strength. The corporate world was brutal, but I thrived in it. I saved my work, shut down my laptop, and headed home. Tomorrow was another battle, and I was ready. The tech giant pitch went better than I'd hoped. The room was packed, their execs leaning in as I spoke. My slides were sharp, my answers sharper. Sarah had prepped a killer data set, and I used it to seal the deal. They didn't sign on the spot, but their smiles said enough. My boss was thrilled, already talking bonuses. I thanked Sarah publicly, earning her a round of applause. The team was gelling, the doubts gone. I thought of Claire, wondering where she'd landed. Probably some mid-tier firm, spinning her charm. It didn't matter, she was out of my orbit. I focused on the present, on the wins stacking up. The "not ready" label was dead, buried under my success. I was rewriting my story, one deal at a time. That night, I treated Sarah to drinks, a small thank you for her loyalty. We talked shop, laughed about the office drama, and planned our next moves. She had ambition, but the good kind, honest, driven. I saw myself in her, minus the betrayal I'd faced. I promised to mentor her, help her climb. Back home, I checked my email, another Apex update, praising our progress. I smiled, feeling the weight of my victory. Claire's sabotage had been a test, and I'd aced it. Tom was still around, but he'd lost his edge. The office respected me now, and I respected myself. I'd closed the deal she tried to steal, and I'd do it again. The corporate game was mine to play, and I was playing to win. A month later, the dust had settled, and I was thriving. The tech giant signed, my promotion was official, and my team was stronger than ever. Sarah stepped into a junior exec role, her star rising. The office had moved on from Claire's scandal, but the lesson lingered. I kept my evidence file locked away, a reminder to stay vigilant. Tom was quieter now, his ambitions checked. My boss trusted me with bigger clients, bigger risks. I took them on, fueled by the fire Claire had lit. Her words, "He's not ready," were a distant memory, drowned out by my success. I'd proven her wrong, not just to her, but to myself. The corporate world was tough, but I was tougher. And I was just getting started. The new project was a beast, global client, tight deadlines, massive stakes. I dove in, leading a team of 10, including Sarah. We worked late nights, fueled by coffee and ambition. The office buzzed with energy, my leadership setting the tone. I thought of Claire sometimes, wondering if she regretted her move. Didn't matter. She was gone, and I was here. My boss checked in daily, impressed by our progress. I delegated more, trusting my team to deliver. Sarah shone, her insights sharpening our pitch. The client's feedback was glowing, and I felt unstoppable. Claire's betrayal had taught me to trust my gut, to act fast. I'd built a team that wouldn't turn on me. The corporate game was brutal, but I was mastering it. Every win felt sweeter because of her. One evening, I found an old sticky note from Claire in my desk drawer. "Don't forget Apex meeting," it read, her handwriting neat. I laughed, tossing it in the trash. She'd been so close to my inner circle, yet so far from loyalty. I'd learned to spot the signs: shifty eyes, fake smiles. My new team was different, built on trust. Sarah and I reviewed the global client's pitch, tweaking last-minute details. We were ready, but I triple-checked everything. Claire's lesson burned into me. The client meeting was in 2 days, and I felt the familiar rush. This was what I lived for: the challenge, the stakes. I'd turned betrayal into strength, doubt into drive. Claire thought I wasn't ready. She was wrong, and I'd keep proving it. The client meeting was electric. I led with confidence, my team backing me up flawlessly. The global execs grilled us, but we had answers for everything. Sarah's data visuals stole the show, earning nods from the client's CFO. I felt proud, not just of myself but of the team we'd built. By the end, the execs were smiling, hinting at a handshake deal. My boss called it a home run, promising to push my name upstairs. I thanked my team, giving credit where it was due. Claire's shadow was gone, replaced by a legacy I was building. I'd taken her sabotage and turned it into fuel. The corporate world was a jungle, but I was carving my path. No one would call me "not ready" again. Back at the office, the vibe was triumphant. My team celebrated with pizza and beers, a rare break from the grind. Sarah toasted to kicking ass, and I laughed, clinking bottles. I thought of Claire, wondering if she'd heard about my wins. Probably. She'd always been plugged into the grapevine. I didn't care. My focus was on the next challenge, the next deal. My boss emailed about a potential board seat, a nod to my rising star. I saved the message, letting it sink in. The Apex deal had been my breakout, but this was my future. Claire's betrayal had been a gift in disguise, sharpening my edge. I was ready for anything now, and everyone knew it. The global client signed the next week, a multi-year contract that cemented my name in the industry. Trade journals called, wanting interviews. I kept it humble, crediting my team. Sarah was thriving, her confidence growing under my mentorship. Tom had left the company, quietly exiting after his Apex flop. I didn't miss him. The office felt like mine now, a space I'd earned. I thought back to Claire's email, her half-hearted apology. It meant nothing. She'd made her choice. I'd made mine too, choosing grit over doubt. Every deal I closed was a middle finger to her "not ready" jab. The corporate ladder was steep, but I was climbing fast. And I wasn't stopping. A new challenge loomed. A competitor was poaching our clients, and I was tasked with fighting back. I rallied my team, mapping out a counter-strategy. We worked late, digging into competitor data, finding their weaknesses. Sarah suggested a bold pricing move, and I ran with it. The client stayed loyal, impressed by our hustle. My boss called it "vintage you," and I grinned. Claire's betrayal felt like ancient history now, a footnote in my rise. I'd built a reputation as someone who delivered, no matter the odds. The office respected me, feared me even. I liked that. The corporate game was ruthless, but I was built for it. Claire had tried to break me, but she'd only made me stronger. That night, I stood at my office window, the city skyline glittering below. I thought about my journey, the doubts, the betrayal, the wins. Claire's words had stung, but they'd pushed me to prove her wrong. I'd closed the Apex deal, then the tech giant, now this. Each victory built on the last, a ladder to the top. Sarah knocked, handing me a report for the next client. She was learning fast, and I was proud. The office was quiet, but I felt its pulse. This was my world now, and I owned it. Claire's sabotage had been a spark, igniting my drive. I wasn't just ready, I was unstoppable. The corporate battlefield was mine, and I was winning. The next morning, I got a call from a headhunter, offering a CEO role at a smaller firm. It was tempting, but I wasn't ready to leave. My current company was where I'd made my name, where I'd fought and won. I thanked her, keeping the door open. Sarah and I prepped for our next pitch, a startup with big dreams. We tailored everything to their vision, and they loved it. Another deal closed, another notch on my belt. I thought of Claire, wondering if she'd followed my rise. Didn't matter, she was irrelevant now. My focus was on the next challenge, the next win. Her not-ready taunt was a distant echo, drowned out by my success. I was building an empire, one deal at a time. If you loved this tale of corporate revenge and redemption, smash that subscribe button for more epic stories.